Okay, so this is a review and demonstration with a comparison of the AmeriGlo SW 745 night sights for the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. So first off, you can see that the firearm is safe, so we'll put that aside here. Now, in the package, what you get, pretty basic packaging, but what you get inside of the sights and an Allen key or Allen wrench, and that's pretty much it. So, which is good. I don't like big packaging trying to sell me stuff. So, this is okay with me. So, how did I install these? Before we get into them, let's talk about how I install them. I would say one of the two kind of cons of the AmeriGlos are that the metal used to house the tritium inserts, basically the sights, is soft. So if I would not suggest attempting to put AmeriGlos into a shield, which is known to have really tight-fitting sights, with a punch and a hammer. I would definitely, and this is what I did, just use a sight push. You can score one of these on eBay or Amazon for 19 or 20 bucks, and it does the job perfectly, and it will save you a lot of time and trouble and hassle just to get them off. Some people have a lot of trouble with the rear sight when they're taking off the stock sight here, because Smith & Wesson will put red Loctite there. Some people say, you know, take a soldering iron, put it there, and the heat will break down the Loctite, or a heat gun. That's I thought that was just too much possibility for causing some serious damage to the slide. So I just went and got some WD-40 and sprayed it in there a couple of times and let it sit for 10 minutes, and then sprayed some WD-40 in there again, let it sit for a few minutes, and boom, it came out real easy. Like, not any trouble at all. So I would suggest trying to do that before you apply heat to the slide. And then go ahead and use your sight push to get them in there. Now, something you need to be aware of is when you slide the rear side off, and you have to slide it from the left side of the firearm to the right side. Underneath on the right side of the slide is a little plunger where the striker blocker comes in with a spring and a little black cap. So as you slide it to the right, just make sure you have your kind of finger over the rear of the slide, especially if you're trying to do this with a punch and a hammer. You got to be really careful, because that thing will just fly off and then it's gone, and you got to call Smith & Wesson and have them send you a new one, and the whole nightmare on its own. So I would use a sight push, which is also good because the sight push, as you push the sights to the right, actually covers that little spring and cover, so it can't go flying off, which is another good reason to use a sight push. And especially since they're so cheap, I would highly recommend going ahead and getting one of those if you're going to do any type of sight work on your shield. It'll cost less to buy a sight push and do it yourself than it will be to take these to a gunsmith and have him do the exact same thing with his sight push. And then if you own the sight push, then you can adjust them the way you like them at the range, and if you have a different firearm you want to change the sights on, you can do that again. So it pays for itself right off the get-go. All right, enough of that. Okay, so why did I go for the AmeriGlos? Well, there are a few big pros to these things. First off is the front sight here. So I'll take the slide off so I can give you a better look here. So looking down on the side picture here, let's get it lined up properly. Okay, so the rear sights have white rings around the Trijicon tritium inserts, which is also a big thing because they're really bright. And I'll show you that in a minute in the demo. But the main reason why I like these over everything else is that it has this great front sight that has the tritium insert in the middle and then an orange ring around the outside. It's like TruGlo Orange, and I got to tell you, I mean they're basically speed sights. That's what they feel like, with the added bonus of having a tritium insert in there to be able to use them at nighttime. Some people don't like having the white rings around the back, but with a bright TruGlo Orange front sight, the white rings make sense and actually make this whole thing, the whole package, work even better. And not only that, I need personally, when I'm aiming, I need something on the rear sights to level the front sight off with. And it's really hard to do that when you use a Hackthorn rear sight that doesn't have any sight pictures on it. It's just basically a blank rear sight. I struggle with that, and I know maybe just practice would help, but I do have one of those. It's just these also have the tritium on the inside, and I shoot much better with the 3-dot picture, full stop. So there's no point in changing it now when I'm already doing well with this. That's what you learn on, so there's no point in changing it. So there you go. That's what it looks like. And basically, they are, if you look up Shield speed sights, you'll see ones that basically look exactly like this, with the white in the back and the orange in the front. I think they're just made out of like diamond shapes. But really, you can't beat this. Now that front orange sight is really good for a few other reasons. It's really high contrast, so not many people wear bright orange clothing, so you're going to be able to see this no matter what you go ahead and point it up against. And for me, trying to front sight focus, and I have terrible eyesight, and basically I wear bifocals, so when you're trying to front sight focus on like white and white, or and what I'll show you here in a minute is the TruGlo TFXs. When you're trying to focus on the front sight, unless there's either a really bright front sight or really high contrast between the rear sights and the front sights, I really struggle. So this contrast of the white and the orange is fantastic for me to be able to front sight focus. And since I put these on here, my shooting has definitely improved. I don't know by how much, but it's a significant, or at least a noticeable improvement with these sights, specifically at longer ranges. So I used to, with the traditional stock white 3-dot sights, would have without using the laser that I have on this thing, would have a lot of trouble hitting anything past about 20 yards. Now with these, I can hit maybe, I think I have one of the I'll show you here in a second, one of the targets I was shooting at that was at a full 30 yards just the other day, and it's probably a 10-inch group, and I'm happy with that. Before it was, I'd have some, probably half on the paper, half not on the paper, and now they're all on the paper in probably a 10-inch group, maybe an 8-inch group. So there's really been a big improvement at distance, up close and personal. It's a shield, I mean, you're going to hit what you want to hit. It's a reliable, accurate firearm. So these work really good for quick target acquisition. I actually haven't used any other sights, night sights or fiber optic or painted, that were anywhere close to how quickly I can acquire a target with these sights. It's a different level, really, honestly. So, for example, I'll show you the TruGlos now. I'll explain why the AmeriGlos here are so much better. So let's crack the package open here. So the AmeriGlos are great for any time. So daytime, nighttime, kind of dim light, which is what I have the room set like this just for this reason, because you can always pick up those white rears and that bright orange front sight, even in kind of dimly lit areas. And the best thing is that in this kind of area, if I turn this light off here, which I will in a little while, you can see the tritium inserts and still see this big orange front sight, which gives a great sight picture. And nothing I've been able to use can compete with that. So, for instance, these are the brand new TruGlo TFXs. So they have the fiber optic insert in there and their tritium sights. So just take a look at that. That's much easier for me on the rear sights to pick up than that. And if I cover the fiber optics, it's even harder. Now some people think, and I had a comment on this just recently, that the TruGlo puts these little rings around the back of the fiber optics, and I chose to put black ones here on the rear sight and a nice big white one here on the front sight. I personally would have really liked these sights if they had put white rings here on the back. Now, some people don't like that, and they think that you can just focus on the one white one in the front. But different strokes for different folks, and I have a lot of trouble focusing on that white front sight with no clear picture in the background. So the rear sights are just as important for the front sights, for me shooting anyways. And if you look here in basic, so this is kind of dimly lighted areas. We'll put it here. Without any direct sunlight, that can be kind of hard to pick up that picture. Barring the front sight, but like the rear sight, I would have trouble aligning, right? But here, if to compare the two, that's clearly easier to see. Not to mention that the orange front sight is also considerably easier to see than the TFX white ring. So the contrast between the white and the orange here is basically superior to basic black and white with these kind of dull green fiber optics. Now, out in the sunlight, that's not a problem. These things are great in the sunlight because those fiber optics really catch the light and they glow bright green, and they're really nice. But they're not any better than the AmeriGlos out in the sun. I think these don't need sunlight to be just as easy to pick up as the TFXs, because they're just always white and orange. So for me, that was a big bonus for the AmeriGlos. So I really need those ringed rears to be able to shoot well, and especially if you're in a struggle or you have a moment to aim, you want to be able to pick someone up real quick and not be worrying about where the rear sights are and pull that front sight up right in between the rears real quick. And with the two whites in the back, it's just easier. I know people are going to disagree with that, but for me, it's just easier. And if you've tried both of these, like I have, I think you'll be hard-pressed not to agree. Okay, so again, these things have, the AmeriGlos have the Tritium Trijicon HD inserts in them. So they're really high quality and clearly, at night anyways, clearly brighter than the TruGlos. TruGlos are good and they'll do you well, but I'll turn the lights off here in a second, and you can see how much brighter the AmeriGlos are. And maybe you can chalk that up to the Trijicon inserts, but they're clearly brighter at nighttime. Alright, and another good thing about the AmeriGlos is that you get a clawed or straight edge rear sight. So you can do one-hand cycling if you have to off a belt. Say you get injured and you can't use your left hand. This is kind of I hate to use this word tactical, but it's a real nice feature to have just in case. And if you look here on the TruGlos, you don't get that. You don't get that at all. So what you end up getting is just like a little angled lip, and there's no way you're going to be able to do a one-handed cycling of a shield, especially with the recoil spring that it has in there. It's already hard enough as it is, especially when it was new. And the front sight is no better. Sometimes you can just put the front sight down and use the front sight, but the front sight on the TFXs have a rounded edge on the front. So you're not going to be able to do one-handed cycling at all based on the sights, the TruGlo sights, unless you have some AmeriGlos or something similar, like the Trijicon HD sights have an almost identical setup to this. So that's a big bonus here for me. So they're speed sights with tritium inserts with high contrast rears and a day-glow orange front, and a front edge lip. So racking them all up, and they're cheaper than the TruGlos. They're way cheaper than the Trijicon HDs, but they have all the same features, and they're just as bright, if not brighter, than all the rest. I haven't found anything else that at nighttime is just as bright as these. Now, Meet Light is just released a new set for the Shield that I think might give it a run for its money. But I haven't been able to get my hands on those, so I don't know. If you have, go ahead and maybe write a comment or something and let us know how it goes. So let's just see if there was anything else I wanted to tell you about. Okay, so the cons, the AmeriGlo, issues with the AmeriGlos. I think there's only really two that I have kind of had, not a gripe with, but would suggest if these two things might persuade someone in one direction or the other. Like I said before, the metal that they used here on the sights is particularly soft. So if you don't have a sight pusher, and you want to run these sights, which I would suggest that you do because they're easily my favorite, I would go ahead and buy a sight push, because going at this with a hammer and punch, you're gonna make them ugly, and you're gonna dent that or mar that material real easy. So and I would suggest for any sights to use a sight push. So that's not really a big deal, and it pays for itself in the first time you use it, basically. And the only other gripe that I have, AmeriGlos, and I called them the other day and spoke to the guy running the show over at AmeriGlo just the other day. The ProGlos is what this front side is called. It's called a ProGlo, right? It's essentially the Trijicon HD front sight, and now the new HD front sights have this photoluminescent paint, basically glow-in-the-dark paint around the front sight. So when you turn the lights off, you get a great big front sight and normal kind of small sized rears, and it helps with sight picture and knowing which dot is the front sight and which ones are the rear sight. So they have this kind of lime green one, and they have orange ones, the Trijicon HDs, and they'll glow in the dark. The guys over at AmeriGlo decided that the orange ones, the orange HD front sights, were not up to their standards, and they found that the glow in the dark paint, the orange type anyways, made the paint really not nearly as bright. So he called it salmon, basically. It was dim and kind of not nearly as bright to orange to pick up on, and the glow in the dark part of the orange sight only lasts for like 2 or 3 minutes. So it doesn't really do you much good. Now, when I ordered these, I wanted it to glow in the dark, and I thought they did. But now having this without the glow in the dark paint, I'm okay with that. If I were to order them again, I might get the lime green ones, because AmeriGlo thinks that the lime green ones are okay. They'll glow in the dark for about 10 minutes after you unholster the firearm, so they're okay with that. So if you're really dead set on having that photoluminescent paint around the front sight, you have to buy the lime green ones. The orange ones won't glow. They won't glow in the dark anyways. But I found that that's not an issue, not at all. Okay, so let's turn the lights off here, and I'll do a comparison here between the TruGlos and the AmeriGlos. Okay, so lights off. Okay. Now it's still light out here, so I might need to come back to this. All right, so as you can see, this is what I was talking about before, and these kind of twilight lighting scenarios. These are AmeriGlos. You can see the rear sights are lighting up pretty nicely. The front sight is also lighting up, but you can still see that orange ring. So when you look down the sight picture, that's pretty nice. I think anyways. I haven't come across anything that's been that easy to see all the time with a night sight picture anyways. So that orange, while it might not be photoluminescent, it's still pretty bright even in the dim settings, and you can pick that up real easy. This is usually what it looks like for me at the range or something, which is usually pretty dim, and I'm a big fan of having the green in the back and the orange in the front. It makes it real easy to pick up the target. Now if you look at the TruGlos, this is the same lighting. I haven't changed anything. So they don't really glow as much. Certainly not like, we'll hold them up next to each other. Certainly not like the AmeriGlos. And maybe a little bit of glow in there, but not nearly as bright as the AmeriGlos. And that front sight on the TruGlos, we'll just leave that there. I mean, it's okay. But that's a big round front sight. And I want something a little bit more precision than that. So this for me is not ideal setup. Now when the lights are completely off, and here this is the other big issue. If on the TFXs you cover, so in this dim twilight night setting, if you cover these fiber optic inserts, and they're open to the air because they have to catch light. If you just say God forbid you get hit and there's blood that covers the top of these things, right? You're screwed. So there you go. Look, when you cover the light from getting into the fiber optics, they basically dim away to nothing. You know, not really bright at all. Especially look if you pull it away a little bit. But if you leave it open, and those fiber optics can catch some light, it'll glow again. But you know, otherwise you're in trouble. Here, turn the light on. Let me give you a better example. So now it's catching the light, and if you just put your finger over the top, look how much dimmer that side is than the side with the light, and it basically makes it just a straight black rear sight, which I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I get its purpose and why people like it, and in certain scenarios I would use it. But this is just an example of night sights. So you want that thing to glow, and you want to be able to pick that up pretty easily. So if that fiber optic thing is covered, you're looking at a black sight. So here you go. If we cover both, there you go. If you let them both off, they come back to glowing again. So if they get covered by blood or dirt or mud, they're not going to work anymore. To me, that's a drawback. Same goes for the front sight. Here's the front sight, and if you, maybe we'll bring it back a little bit. It's not really glowing, so that's not going to make much of a difference. Okay. On the other hand, with the AmeriGlos, cover all you want, and it's not going to do anything. And I think they're just as bright in the sunlight. So go ahead and look at the if you want to see what these look like when they're fluorescing in direct light, look at the other video I made about these specifically sites, the TFXs. At the very end, I show you it in direct light and then kind of in dimmer settings, and you can see them fluoresce. They're really bright green. If I were outside, these would be a good choice, but for my eye, this is winning for me easy. This setup is definitely what's best for me. So let's turn the lights all the way off and do a comparison side by side of how they glow. So functioning as night sights, this is how they look. We'll start with the rears. So side by side. So on your right side, the one I'm showing you right now, those are the AmeriGlos, and on the left side, you've got the TruGlos, the TFXs. They're over here. Now, I think, to my eye, the AmeriGlos are pretty much considerably brighter. Now the TFXs are on top, and the AmeriGlos are on bottom. I think that's pretty hands down. AmeriGlo is brighter. And then when you look at the front sight, so again, in this kind of dim setting, you can still pick up on that bright orange pretty easily with the tritium on the inside, which is a cool, it looks like a bullseye almost. And if you add in the TFXs here, we'll put them right next to it. This is what they look like. So they're really still dim, you know. I mean, they'll serve you well, and they do glow, but not like the AmeriGlos. I mean, look, that's bright, and this is same light settings, and we're in the same room. Nothing's changed, and it's still, you know, for the price. I mean, the AmeriGlos are a much better bet. They're cheaper, they're brighter, better sight picture, and they'll work all the time. These will have trouble if they get their fiber optics covered up. So again, here, let's just do the TFXs here. This is how they look. Front sight, oh, sorry guys. Front sight's over here on the left. The rear's over here on the right for you guys. So let's get them real close so you can have a good look at them. There you go. And again, the AmeriGlos look like this. I mean, that's a pretty clear-cut win for the AmeriGlos in terms of night sights. Daytime shooting, it's kind of your preference. If you like the fluorescing of the fiber optics, then and you don't really care if they're a little bit dim, and you like a black rear sight like that, maybe these are for you. And they'll still, you know, they'll glow at nighttime with the tritium, just not as bright as some of the other ones. And they'll serve you well. But for me, the AmeriGlos here are a hands down winner when it comes to night sights. I am anxious to get my hands on a pair of the new Mipro lights and see how they compare. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that anytime soon. So if anybody has those, feel free to write down in the comments, maybe post a picture or something, or a link to a video of them, so we can all see. Again, safe. All right, so that's it. That's the AmeriGlos. I think they're really the best bet that you can do right now on the night sight market. For the price, for the features, for how bright the tritium is, you really can't go wrong. So I recommend these over all out so far.